I've got some great news. My Amazon Made Easy membership is now open. No more waiting. You can join at any time and get the guidance, resources, and support you need to grow your business on Amazon. Whether you're just getting started or you're looking to scale, you'll have access to expert advice, a supportive community, and ongoing help whenever you need it. If you're ready to make selling on Amazon easier, head to vickyweinberg.com/membership to join today.
Welcome to the Bring Your Product Idea to Life podcast. This is the podcast for you if you're getting started selling products or if you'd like to create your own product to sell. I'm Vicky Weinberg, a product creation coach and Amazon expert. Every week, I share friendly, practical advice as well as inspirational stories from small businesses. Let's get started.
Hello, I hope you're well wherever you are listening to this. I am actually back recording a couple of these episodes in the middle of the Easter holidays, so hopefully the background will be nice and quiet. It has been lovely here in Kent, but until today when it's freezing cold, and you probably can't see this even if you're watching me on YouTube, which by the way you can watch all of these episodes on YouTube, but I'm wearing a thermal vest under my clothes today because it is that cold. So today's episode is about some of the questions that I get asked most frequently. So I do lots of Q&A calls with businesses either selling their products on Amazon or looking to start selling their products on Amazon who want some help. I get asked questions during the Q&A sessions I run for my Amazon Made Easy members, and a lot of the same questions come up time and time again. It never bothers me, by the way, because I love being able to help. But what I thought would be really good is for me to put together this episode of some of the things I get asked a lot. Not so that you can't ask me. Of course, you can always ask me questions, but it might be that by listening to this episode, I answer something you've already been thinking. And actually, even if some of these things haven't been on your mind, hopefully you're still going to learn something that you didn't already know. So the first question I get asked is, how much does it cost to start selling on Amazon? So I have done a full episode on this, which I will link to in the show notes for this episode. But I'm going to go through it here as well for you, because I know it gets really annoying when I keep saying, oh, there's an episode on that, because by now there's an episode on most things. So let's start with, the first thing is, if you want to sell on Amazon, it depends what kind of seller account you want. So there is an individual account or a professional account, and I have done an episode on that. And if you want more, go and take a listen. If you want to use the professional account, that is priced at £25 per month plus VAT. And that's what you pay just to have an Amazon Seller Central account so you can sell your products on Amazon. The individual account is free, and that caps you at 35 sales a month, and you get charged 75 pence per sale plus a referral fee. And as I say, there's a whole episode on which of these to choose, but hopefully that gives you an idea. So it's either free, but you pay 75p plus the referral fees, which we'll go into, or it's 25 plus VAT. For most sellers, I would say the professional plan, so that's the one that's £30 a month in total, is the one to go for, because you get a lot more features than you do on the individual plan. So it probably, kind of factor that £30 a month in. So coming on to referral fees, for every item you sell on Amazon, you pay them a percentage of the total price, which includes the item price, the shipping cost, any gift wrapping charges, or the minimum amount, whichever is greater. And then usually it's going to be greater because I'm sure your products are priced, as such that this will apply. The referral fees are in addition to the fees you pay for the plan. So you pay £30 a month plus a referral fee for every item sold. And that referral fee is between 5 and 15%, depending on the category. Something else I get asked a lot, so this is a bonus for you, is how much will the referral fee be for my category? I don't know all these off the top of my head. Easiest thing is go to the Amazon seller website and search for referral fees, and it will give you a table that tells you the category and what the fee is. But most of them are around sort of the 10 to 12% mark. So what's next? FBA. If you decide to use Amazon to store and fulfill your products, so that's Amazon FBA or fulfilled by Amazon, you obviously will pay for that. So there are no subscription fees, there are no contracts, there's no minimum requirements, but you will pay for the services you use. So you'll ship your products to Amazon's fulfillment center, and obviously there'll be a cost involved in sending your products in. You will then pay Amazon a storage fee for the products they're holding, and then you will also pay every time they ship an item out to the customer. What you actually pay is kind of quite hard to work out, let's be honest, because there's a lot involved. So the storage fee, for example, is based on per cubic foot per month, and the volume is measured on the unit size when the product is packaged ready to go. Also, there are different fees for oversized products, hazmat products, chosen clothing. There is an Amazon fulfillment calculator, which again I will link to in the show notes. I've done an episode on this as well. I also have a video on YouTube explaining how to use this. Basically, what you can do with that is you can plug in all the details of what your product is. And if your product isn't on Amazon already, which for many of you perhaps it won't be, you can either give the details of your product, so what the product is, so what kind of item it is, the measurements, the weight, what category it would go in, and Amazon will work out the fees based on that. Or you could pick a product on Amazon that's pretty similar to yours. So hopefully there won't be anything identical on there. But if you were selling, I know I use this example a lot, but if you were going to be selling a baby towel, you could pick another baby towel on Amazon that looks similar to yours, and you could plug in all the details about what what price you'd be selling it for, and Amazon will then work out the fees for you. So that's probably the best way to do it. Of course, you can try and work it out yourself. Those FBA fees can be tricky. And of course, if you're not using FBA, then there'll be your own fulfillment costs to consider. So you set your own shipping rates if you are shipping items yourself. However, I always do recommend to price your products in a way that, if possible, that you are not charging an additional cost for shipping unless you have to. We'll talk about that a bit more later. So if you are going to charge for shipping, I would think about how much you charge versus how much you actually have to pay. And then there are other things. So long-term storage, if your product's sitting in an Amazon warehouse for a long time, the fees go up. If you need to remove stock from your inventory for any reason, you will pay for that. There might be some admin around refunds. You might decide you want to do some Amazon advertising. You might decide you want to use Amazon Vine. You might decide to run promotions. So, for example, I'm working with brands at the moment who are giving 25% off on the first week. Now, obviously, that's not something you're paying, but it is a cost to you and your business. So there are lots and lots of things to consider. As I say, there is a full episode in all of this. There's the FBA calculator I mentioned. There is a little bit to get your head around, but knowing how much it's going to cost you is so important, because unless you know what it's going to cost you to sell your products on Amazon, you can't even begin to consider whether it's feasible for you. So this is a great question, and it's something well worth looking into. And as always, and with anything that I cover today, if you need any more information, if something isn't clear, you want to ask me something, please do get in touch, Vicky@vickyweinberg.com. So the second thing I get asked very often is, how long does it take to start selling? Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. When you decide you're going to get yourself onto Amazon, there's a few things you need to do. So in the real simple terms, I'm going to make this really, really simple. You need to set up your Amazon Seller Central account. So that involves giving some personal information, some business information. It involves getting your account verified, your identity verified, and that can take, let's say, up to a week. It can be done quicker, but one thing to know about Amazon is they can move quite slowly. The next thing you will need to do is create your actual product listings, and the time this takes depends on sort of how organized you are and when you've started, because actually you could be starting preparing your Amazon product listings, which we've spoken about before, but not swap ever episodes about researching keywords, making sure you've got really well optimized listings, you've got great images. You might have done that before now, or you might have your Amazon account up and running and then be thinking about the listing. But whichever way you do this, actually setting up the listing or listings shouldn't take you that long. Most of the work should be going into getting them really well optimized and making sure you've got everything available. You might also want to add on A+ content. That'll take you a bit more time. You might want to set up an Amazon store. That will take you a bit more time. So you're probably guessing the answer we're going for here is, it varies depending exactly what you're doing. Then if you are fulfilling orders yourself, the way it works is when you set up your listings on Amazon, you will set the amount of stock you've got. There's a little box, or you can sync it with your fulfillment center or however else you want to do that. But as soon as Amazon sees their stock available for you to fulfill orders, your listings go live. If you're sending stock into Amazon, so for FBA, your listings won't go live until that stock arrives at the Amazon warehouse. So that adds on a little bit more time. Not that long. Just this week, I worked with a client. We sent some stock in and it was checked in within 3 days. So within 3 days, it was being collected from their distribution center. It was at Amazon and it was available to buy. That was really quick. Can take a bit longer at certain times of the year. So in the lead up to Prime Day, Black Friday, in fact, any time in quarter 4, it does take a lot longer. So this is not a definitive answer, I know. As I said, I've really simplified the things that need to be done. I've got a full checklist. I'll link to that in the show notes that talks you through every single step. But I would say it's really down to you. If you're organised and you've got everything ready to go, you could do this all in a couple of weeks. But do know that it does always seem to take a little bit longer than expected. As I've alluded to before, on Amazon, things can and do go wrong. Sometimes things pop up unexpectedly. I really know what I'm doing. This is something I do all the time. And I still come up against challenges where I'm up against the whim and the timescales of Amazon. I think that at any point in time that you speak to me, I'll have at least one or two issues for clients that completely unexpected, completely not their fault, that we're working to resolve. And I'm not saying this to put you off, it's just to let you know to planning a little bit of extra time for getting set up. So if you are listening to this episode when it goes out in April and you want your products to be live on Amazon in May, start now, because it will take a bit longer than you expect. And if it doesn't and everything goes well, brilliant, you've got it done sooner than expected. But it always panics me when people contact me in October and say, oh, I want to be selling on Amazon in time for Christmas, for example, because depending on how many products they've got, the size of the range, how much of the imagery they have, that can be really tight. So my best advice to you is to be as organised as possible. But don't, as Evan said that, don't rush, because it is much better to get off to a great start, to have really well optimized listings, to have great images, to have A+ content if you're using it, although that's not absolutely necessary. You can start with just, a basic product listing, great text, great images, but it's much, much easier to start doing everything well than it is to go back in 3 months or 6 months or whatever and redo everything because you realise that things, were rushed the first time round, and maybe you're not making the sales you expected. So, plan ahead, be organised, give yourself as much time as possible. And finally, if things do go wrong, most things are resolvable. And I've got episodes on that as well if you want to take a listen. So our third question, and this actually, we alluded to that in the last question, is how do I choose the keywords for my listing? I get asked this a lot, can I use the same keywords that I use on my website? Can I use keywords in Google Ads Manager? What software do I use for my Amazon keyword research? So let's talk about that. You hopefully know that keywords are really important on Amazon. A well-optimized listing will help with visibility. Maybe not from day one, because as we've spoken about before, it takes a little while for your listings to start ranking on Amazon. You might not get found the first week, even if your listing is extremely well optimized. You might have to do something to drive traffic to it. However, having the relevant keywords in your listing will help you massively, because when you do start to rank organically on Amazon, if people are typing in something relevant for your product, you will start showing up, and that's really important. So in terms of where to find keywords, first of all, I would say, think about your customer. Don't think about you as a business owner. What I mean by this is you need to be thinking about what are the things that a customer would type into the search bar to find a product like yours, not how you would describe it. What are people actually looking for? And I know this can be quite hard, this can be possibly quite hard to get your head around. So things you can do are, you can use Amazon search bar. You can type something into Amazon search bar, the beginning of a search. So like, we were talking about baby towels earlier, so let's stick with that. If you type baby towel into the Amazon search bar, in fact, I'm going to do this right now. So if you're on YouTube, you'll see me doing this. I'm on Amazon, I'm typing in baby towel. What comes up next is baby towels newborn, baby towel with hood, baby towels newborn girl, baby towel poncho, and then there's a few more. And so what this tells me is that when people type baby towel into the Amazon search bar, the most popular way for them to finish that phrase or sentence is baby towels newborn. So that tells me a lot of people are typing for baby towels newborn on Amazon. So if I was looking to sell a baby towel, I would know, okay, that's going to be one of the keywords or phrases I'm going to want to use in my listing. I can also see baby towel with hood. So if the towel I was selling had a hood, I'd obviously want to make sure that was in there. It's also got baby towels newborn girl. So again, I would make sure that all of those words and phrases were somewhere in my listing. I'm not suggesting this is the only thing you do, but I think it's a really good place to start. The other thing you can do, which will really help with get an idea of the words that your customers are using is go and look at some similar products to yours on Amazon. So again, using the baby towel example, I would maybe, and I can do this right now, let's find a baby towel. So I'm looking at a baby towel listing that's come up on Amazon, and I'm going to scroll all the way down and have a look at their reviews. And so for example, first 3 reviews I look at, they all talk about it being soft. One says soft fabric, well made. The other one says very nice and soft. This one says beautiful blue colour and very soft. Can I find another one? That was just the first 3 that I looked at, and typically now I can't see enough one that says soft. However, I can tell by looking at those reviews that a lot of customers have praised the fact that the towels are soft. So that would maybe be something I would want to use either as a keyword, or I'd want to use somewhere in my listing to describe the towel, because the fact that it's soft, customers talking about as a benefit, that's clearly something that's important to customers. So you can look at products similar to yours on Amazon, similar to the product you're going to sell, and you can see what kind of words customers are using in reviews, because that will help you as well. And also I would look, while you're looking at your competitors' listings, so I'm looking at baby towels, I would look at the words and phrases that other sellers of similar products are using in their listings. As I've said, we're not talking about copying anyone here, but it will give you an idea, because if you look at 20 or 10 towel listings, I'm talking about the titles at the moment, you're looking at the titles because the titles carry the most weight for SEO and keywords. If you look at the titles of 10 of the listings and you see that all or most of them have got a certain word or phrase in, you know that's something you're going to really need to have as well, because there's a reason they're using that. So all of them, as you can imagine, that I'm looking at now use the word towel, all of them use the word baby, and this is obviously pretty obvious. I'm doing this in real time, which is why I don't actually have time to do this properly, but I can also see hooded. Nearly all of them say hooded because I guess they all have a hood, but interestingly they don't say hood, they say hooded. So considering that I've scrolled down right to the bottom of page 1 and every single one has got the word hooded in it, I'm assuming that hooded towel is a relevant keyword. So hopefully this helps you get the idea. If this all sounds like loads of work and you're thinking, Vicky, this is going to take me ages, well, yeah, maybe it will take a while, but I promise it's worth it. But you can also pay for this as well. So you can pay for someone to do it for you, or you can invest in some software. So I like Jungle Scout, that's the one I use. I'm also trialing Helium 10 at the moment because I want to try a few different softwares to kind of get an idea of which one might work best. So Jungle Scout and Helium 10 are 2 Amazon keyword softwares. And there are plenty of others out there as well. So you can use software as well if that's going to make your life easier, particularly if that's going to be the difference between you doing this keyword research or not. Because what those software packages do is you can either give it the name of a actual listing on Amazon, so you can point it to a specific listing and say, what keywords is this listing ranking for? Or you can type in something, for example, towel, and then Amazon will tell you the search, the number of searches for like all of those relevant phrases and keywords relevant to towel. So baby towel, hooded towel. You can find out how many people are actually searching per month, whether that's trends going up and down, how easy it is to rank. Well, you can get all of this on Jungle Scout anyway, which is the one that I use. So that's an option for you as well. But I guess the key thing to know is, if you're asking this question, great, because you know the keywords are important. And I think that is the key thing to take away from here. Keywords are important, and doing some keyword research is important. And the keywords you use on Google or on your website might be slightly different to Amazon. Often they're not exactly the same. So doing some Amazon specific keyword research will be really helpful. Okay, and now question 4. How do I get my first sales on Amazon? Yeah, I get asked this a lot. As I alluded to a little bit earlier, I have a client who's just started on Amazon, and they said to me the other day, and I hadn't heard this one for a while, they said, I'm typing our brand name into Amazon and our listing isn't coming up. And I had to explain, okay, well, this is because you're just on there. No one's probably been searching for you because you're a brand new brand to Amazon. You probably haven't had enough search volume for Amazon for you to be ranking. And even if you were, you're brand new on Amazon, so your listing's got no sales, it's got no reviews. It's going to be really hard, and you're not going to show up from day one, unfortunately. But what you do need to do is, do a little bit of work. So we've spoken about a lot, haven't we, when I answered the last question about how well optimized your listing needs to be for search. That will really, really help you. in terms of getting your first sales, because one of the most important things is that you get found. So, and we're going to talk about this a bit later, but it's really key to do something to get traffic to your listing. So you can run Amazon ads, or you can do something else, but anything you can do to kind of get people to know you're on Amazon will really help you. I also think in terms of getting your first sales, thinking about your price is really good. So make sure your price makes sense among your competitors. So I don't necessarily mean you need to be the cheapest, but making sure that your price, you're not, for example, coming new onto Amazon with a really expensive product. Maybe you're going to be the most expensive in your category, but your listing doesn't really tell people why your product costs more, because that's really not going to help. And as I say, if your product should be priced higher than everything else in your category, definitely price it at that price, but your listing needs to reflect that so customers can understand why. Thinking about a launch plan before you get started is really useful. So as I say, you need to do things to drive traffic to your listing. Thinking in advance, before you launch, about what you're going to do will really, really help you. And I think the other thing to think about is reviews, because reviews also really help on Amazon. It's harder to get sales on a brand new listing with absolutely no reviews. So think about what you can do there as well. You can use Amazon Vine, which is a program where you submit some of your products to Amazon verified reviewers. They get the products for free. So you're essentially giving away some product, but you will get reviews in return. So that can be a really good thing to do. Or of course, if you are doing any kind of promotion to get people to buy your product on Amazon using other methods, so social media or email, maybe using your email list, maybe your just your personal contact your friends and family, or letting them know you're on Amazon. Whenever you're telling people I'm on Amazon, and hopefully you're saying please buy my product or please look at my product, just remind people, please leave me a review. It'd be really great if once you've bought my product you left a review. That's really good as well. Unfortunately, you do need to ask, because Amazon don't automatically send those review request emails to customers now. So you might have noticed, I'm sure if you shop on Amazon, you're quite possibly not getting those emails anymore that say, please review this product. You can leave a review, but for a lot of people, it's an afterthought. So make sure you're reminding people to leave reviews. And all of these things combined will really help. I should say getting your first sales on Amazon is tough. It's actually one of the toughest things. So please don't be dismayed if you're not getting sales, day one, your product goes live and you're like, oh, I haven't got any sales. Please don't be downhearted, because I promise you will get there. It just takes a little bit of work. And on that, I'm actually going to answer a bonus question that nobody's asked. Well, sometimes people ask, but I'm going to answer anyway, which is about Amazon ads. Do they work? Do you need them? Because they are one way of driving traffic to your listing. And in my opinion, they're a really good way. So do you need them? Short answer is yes and no. No, you don't need to run Amazon ads. They can help you get your first sales faster, because Amazon is a shopping platform. People are there to shop. So if they're coming back to the baby towel example, if they're on Amazon and they're searching for baby towels, chances are they're trying to buy a baby towel, or they're trying to do some keyword research for baby towels. But let's assume that they are there to shop. And then if your ad pops up and your product looks like what they're looking for, then you've got a chance of making a sale there. So they can help you make that first sale faster. They work best when your listing is well optimized, which we've covered a lot in this episode, so I won't go back over it. They also work better when your listing already has reviews. So in an ideal world, you won't start doing any advertising on Amazon until you've got a couple of reviews, whether that's via Vine, whether that's by asking your existing customers to buy your product and leave reviews. However you do that, ideally you wouldn't run ads until you have reviews. However, you don't have to run Amazon ads. I never want to tell anyone, yes, you need to spend all this money. You need to run ads or you're not going to get any sales. That's not the case. But if you don't decide to run ads, you do have to do something. So whether that's, as I said, social media, whether that's using your email list, whether that's using your friends and family, your personal social media, whatever it is you're going to do, you have to do something. Because unless you tell people that you're on Amazon, or you do something to drive traffic to Amazon, it is unlikely that people will just find you, especially when you're a new listing. This will happen, by the way. Once you've been on there for a while and you start getting sales and you start getting reviews and you get some momentum, people will find your listing organically and they will buy your product. But that's really hard to do at the beginning. So if you're not going to run ads, my best advice is do something to tell people that you're on Amazon. And my final question, or your final question, is do I need to use FBA? So FBA, as I said, is fulfilled by Amazon, and this is where you send your stock into Amazon for them to hold your stock in their distribution centres and then fulfill orders, and customers usually get next day or sometimes even same day delivery, depending on where they live. My short answer is no, you don't have to, but it can really boost your visibility and it can make your life easier. So it's worth considering for those two reasons. So I want to talk about boosting your visibility. Amazon does give Prime offers more preference on the search page. It doesn't mean that if you don't offer Prime, you won't get on page one, but Amazon does give preference to Prime offers, probably because it makes them more money. Also, Prime, if you're offering Prime, you're more likely to get the buy box. The buy box is that button on the listing where it says buy now. This is only really relevant if you're not the only seller of your product, but I'm hoping that you are. I'm hoping you're the only person selling your product on Amazon. But if you weren't and there was more than one seller, a seller offering Prime would get preference and would get that buy box. And why will it make your life easier? Well, hopefully that's obvious. You won't have to fulfill orders yourself. When I was selling on Amazon, I used Prime because I hated packing orders and I really hated going to the post office. I suppose I could have got them collected, but I didn't. I used to pack them up, go to the post office, drop them all off, and I really, really disliked it. So using Prime for me was massive. It saved so much time, so much effort, and it took away a job that I didn't like. But of course, if you're happy fulfilling your orders, you absolutely don't have to use Prime. I guess I'm just trying to give you both sides of it. And also fulfilling orders yourself does give you more control. So if you want to put an insert in with a product, or you like to package your products a certain way, you can do all of that. Prime doesn't do that. Prime, however, can be quicker than your own fulfillment, not necessarily. Maybe you've got some shipping options that are as quick, and I know a lot of people do, but then you have to weigh up how much that costs you versus how much that costs Amazon. Because I do recommend that if you are doing your own fulfillment, as I spoke about earlier, particularly unless your products are massive, they're really big products that are going to cost a lot to ship. But for like a regular size product, I do recommend free shipping if you can, so it looks comparable with a Prime offer. So I would say if you can do that, that's a good thing to do. But then you also need to think about delivery speed as well. So it's a really hard one to weigh up. What I will say is, and this isn't a cop-out, but it's useful for you to know, is you can actually do both. So you can set up a listing on Amazon or a couple of listings on Amazon where they have a FBA offer. So you send some stock into Amazon, but you can also hold some stock yourself. That can be really useful so that if FBA goes out of stock and it takes you a while to send more stock in, your listing doesn't close down, because if there's no stock anywhere and orders can't be fulfilled, the listing gets closed, then all the hard work you've done on your ranking starts going down. So it's really good not to go out of stock if possible. It also means that customers who don't have Prime, lots of customers have a Prime membership, but those who don't will also be able to buy your product with free shipping if that's what you're offering. So that is something else you can do. You can also have some of your products via FBA and some not. So it's not a case of it's a flat thing. You have to do the same for every product in your inventory. Definitely not. I work with brands who might sell a product. They might sell 20 variations, let's say, of the same products. And they know that, these ones move really quickly. So they send these ones into Prime. But some of the others that don't sell quite as well, they fulfill themselves to do those free shipping. So for the customer, there's not a huge difference. Maybe they have to wait a day later to get the version that the seller is fulfilling themselves, but that's usually not a huge deal. So it's just thinking what works for you. There are also some products that work less well to be sent in for Prime or can't be sent in. So for example, if you sell a food product and the shelf life is less than 6 months, so you sell something that's super fresh, you won't be able to send that in for FBA. If you send in a product that you think might get a lot of damages, then maybe you don't want to use FBA. I have a client who sells like a tech product, and the amount of returns are crazy because the boxes get dropped and then something doesn't work. And that brand, I think, is also going to move away from FBA for that reason, because And I know that you can never control how well someone is handling your product, even if you're using Royal Mail. Obviously it goes through a process, but I think there is something in, you're sending your product into Amazon, it's getting unloaded, it's going on a shelf, then it comes back off the shelf and it goes into another box, and then it goes in a van. There's a lot of processes to go through. So if you sell something that's highly likely to be broken, well, hopefully it's packaged in such a way it wouldn't be, but that's something also to consider. If you're selling something that's really, really big, you probably also don't want to send it in because the oversized fees are enormous. So let's say you sell barbecues, I'm just thinking because I can see mine out the window, you might not want to send that into FBA because it's such a big product. It probably cost you an awful lot of money, and also I'm not sure it's something that customers necessarily need to receive next day. Which also leads me on to if you sell something that customers are likely to want in a hurry. So maybe it's something that's ideal for a gift, and often people leave that sort of thing quite late, or it's something for a child, and you can offer it via Prime to customers and get it next day, then that's good too. So my answer to this question is it depends. And I am sorry that for some of these there just isn't a definitive answer, but hopefully I've given you enough information for you to think this through and think about what works for you. I know Amazon can feel really confusing, but hopefully this has helped make it seem a little bit more manageable. Do listen in to more episodes. I've got a whole back catalogue of these Amazon specific episodes, and new ones being released every Tuesday. And you can always book a power hour with me if you listen to this or many episodes and you would like some more personalised help. And I will put the link to do that in the show notes, or you can go to vickyweinberg.com. So thank you so much for listening. This short episode has been a bit longer than most, but I hope you found it useful. If you have any other questions or any topics you'd like to hear me talk about on this episode, please just let me know. And until then, have a great week and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much for listening right to the end of this episode. Do remember that you can get the full back catalogue and lots of free resources on my website, vickyweinberg.com. Please do remember to rate and review this episode if you've enjoyed it, and also share it with a friend who you think might find it useful. Thank you again, and see you next week. Hi, this is just a little note to say if you've enjoyed this episode, or indeed any of the episodes, and you would like to, buy me a coffee or something, you can actually now leave tips. So there's a link to how to do this in the show note. Of course, do not feel obliged to do this. This is a free podcast. This will always be a free podcast. But as I say, if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that via the link in the show notes.